Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to council. It's the 16th meeting of the 142nd Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas on a beautiful May day. So let's go with disclosures of interest. Anyone have any disclosures of interest, please? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
Your Worship, I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on May the 2nd, 2022 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Your Worship, I just wonder if we would be able to move an item from corporate governance, the Entegrus request for approval of a shareholder's waiver for the sale of Fibre assets to Deputations. And then if we could move, if we have Mr. Jim Hogan on as an attendee, if we could place him as a panelist.
I think that's a great idea. So if we do have Mr. Hogan on, we could go to him as a deputation. There we go.
Your Worship, at this time, if I could just read the resolution just ahead of Mr. Hogan appearance, that the report regarding the request for approval of shareholders waiver relating to the proposed sale of Fibre business dated April 25th, 2022 be received for information, and further that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a waiver resolution and direction of the shareholders of Entegrus Inc. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Hogan, you're up. Good to have you here.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be pushed up here. So I appreciate allowing me to do that. And so good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, administration. So yes, in front of you is a resolution and a waiver for our shareholders. I'll just kind of go back a little bit. Where this came up, the idea of selling the Fibre business was really about 18 months ago, and we received an unsolicited offer to purchase the system, and we were investing in it and doing quite well, but it was a very attractive offer, and it got us thinking that maybe there's opportunities for us to monetize, and possibly and hopefully the new purchaser service provider would be able to provide an exceptional service for the city of St. Thomas. That deal did not go through. However, as I say, it was quite interesting, and we thought we'd do an RFP process. So we did that over the last 6 or 7 months, and a very successful offer. So we're in the final negotiating stages of that process. Now, throughout the whole RFP process, we did include the leadership of the city of St. Thomas. So your city manager and Sandra Dater-Bear, and the city treasurer, Dan Sheridan, and then your IT support lead, Nancy Spears. They were all part of this process. I think Dan and Nancy actually participated in the interview process of our final proponents. So we hope that over the next 2 weeks or so, we'll complete the transaction, and we'll have a tri-party announcement. So in the end, this looks like a great opportunity for the residents of the city of St. Thomas, and a pretty good deal for Entegrus and its shareholders. So with that, I'll answer any questions if anybody has any, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening there, James. How are you tonight?
Very good, very good.
This won't be a difficult question, but my question is, are there any downsides for the city to sell the Fibre business?
I don't think so. And I say that because the proponent that all of the proponents and the one that we're working with in the end here is a company that this is their core business. It does seem like they have you know, a reasonable balance sheet, so a reasonable sized company. So you know, I think there's a good opportunity for probably a better opportunity for the residents and the ability to provide this service to the community.
Yeah, thank you. I did read the report and it looked like the company going to buy it is pretty high in fiber business. So anyway, thank you. Just wanted to make sure we weren't missing something. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan.
You're welcome. Have a good evening, everyone.
Your worship, at this time, council will resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with following business. First item is the strategic direction and development. And the first topic under this committee, it relates to the community improvement plan project for the property at 51 Malakoff. I have a motion that report PD 2522 relating to a community improvement project by JC Real Estate Company, Inc. for 51 Malakoff Street be received for information. And further, council approve a community improvement residential grant, tax increment grant, and a planning and building fees grant for application 2022-119 as submitted by JC Realty Company, Inc. for 51 Malakoff Street. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to an application for temporary removal of part lot control. I have a motion that report PD 2622 relating to the application by Doug Tarry Limited for temporary removal of part lot control for townhouse dwellings on lots 10, 11, 13, 14, 16, and 18 on registered plan 11M 257 be received for information. And further, that the application by Doug Tarry Limited relating to the passing of a bylaw to temporarily remove part lot control for those townhouse dwellings be approved. And further, the council authorized staff to prepare a bylaw pursuant to section 50 sub 7 of the Planning Act, which provides that subsection 50 section 50 sub 5 of the Planning Act relating to part lot control does not apply to townhouse dwellings on lots 10, 11, 13, 14, 16, and 18 on registered plan 11M 257. Moved by Councillor Rimo, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to the first report of the 2022 Site Plan Control Committee. I have a motion that report PD 2722 relating to site plan application number SPC 0322 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Rimo, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is not really a comment about the site, the report, more about the development itself. And I was looking at this and I think it's a great spot, fantastic, right in the middle of everything, lots of good reasons to want to live there. But then I started thinking, where are the green spaces that the folks who live here are going to go and walk to and you know, what are they going to do that way? And I gave it some thought and I thought there's not a whole lot around there. Like if you go, and I was thinking about Alexandria Street, Malakoff Street, and that whole area in the day. And I know my name's Steve, and I know I have a history degree, and I know there's another Steve with a history degree on this council who does talk about this stuff sometimes, but it's my turn to talk about this, that you had the Timken ball fields there for years, that if you want to go play catch, you could just go to the Timken ball fields. I suppose in the evening when golf was over, you could go on the golf course and, run around, I guess. I have a long-term concern over people having access to green spaces. The denser our developments are, the closer they are to the roads, the more we have to provide green spaces, walking paths, and that kind of thing, because people are going to be more compressed. When you increase density, I think there's an obligation on us to provide recreation opportunities for people to keep them outdoors and active and social. This has got nothing to do with this report, but just to say that is my concern over this area of town as it develops more fully and over other parts of the city as we grow and we develop. And this is a weak link in this area of the city. I don't think there's anything we can particularly do about it right now because we simply don't have the space. It would have been great if the city would have bought the railway lands those years ago. And, you know, I'll stop there because I could talk a lot about that, but I won't. That's just my concerns. I want to raise that. And that if I was living there, it's great. But if you're living in Alma, you've got a pathway right outside your door. If you're here, you do have sidewalks, but you are in a busy traffic area. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
Thanks. Mine is more just a general question, and perhaps the fire chief could answer it at a further time. Is just what impact do buildings like this have on our equipment and things? I know we have some other large buildings in town, so I'm assuming the 14 is no problem. But I'm just wondering for future developments, at what level past 14 do we then need an upgrade of equipment? So maybe just no hurry, but it's something I think we need to look and discuss. Thank you.
Okay, we'll ask the chief to come back to us with an answer on that. Thanks. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next two items relate to notices of public meetings. The first one is a site plan control committee meeting being held on May 18th at 10 a.m. via Zoom to consider a new commercial plaza at 131 South Edgeware Road. The second is notice from the Township of Southwold regarding a public meeting on May 24th at 7:30 via Zoom as well regarding a proposed amendment to the Township zoning bylaw to permit and regulate additional dwelling units on properties within the Township. Your Worship, no further items under this committee unless there are any items from the members.
Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to the clerk, and I think Lou, a few meetings back, the Shaw Valley Working Group presented a letter with a bunch of questions on, and I know that upon request of a signed letter coming in from the group that the director would provide answers to council in the working group. I'm just wondering if that should show up under unfinished business or when we could expect that to come back, because I do understand that there has been a signed letter come into the clerk's office.
Mr. Pompili, good to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor's question. Yes, I have just as of today provided a draft copy of my response to the city clerk, looking for some direction in terms of the best way to communicate that. And I do apologize. I wanted to run that by our solicitor that's dealing with this matter, and she was away at the time of the council meeting and just recently returned. So I just got some comments back, but that is complete. It's just a matter of determining the best way to communicate that to council.
Great, thank you.
Any other items under this, under strategic direction and development? Seeing none?
We'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to health recruitment partnership relating to Dr. Ikafia. I have a motion that report ADM 1822 relating to the recruitment of Dr. Ikafia be received for information, and further council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a health recruitment partnership agreement with Dr. Ikafia for the provision of $33,000 in health recruitment incentive funding. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. As chair of this committee, I support this item, and I am hoping the rest of council does as well. This committee and the health recruiter have been doing some very good work, and this is beginning to start to show in the amount of recruitment that we've been able to do, and we hope it will continue with supports like this to doctors coming to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Great work.
Your Worship, no further items for this committee unless there are any items from the members.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
As a follow-up to the health recruitment, one of the things that I have been discussing is how to find a doctor or a nurse practitioner in our community. And I will be posting it on Facebook. I would like to thank the CAO for providing that information, but I also am going to request that the city update the Facebook page as well, providing that information to members of this community.
Super, thank you. Any other items under community engagement and services? Seeing none?
We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to traffic control at Moore, McIntyre, and Alma College Square entrance. I have a motion that report ES 3422 relating to traffic control at Moore Street, McIntyre Street, and the Alma College Square entrance be received for information, and further that an all-way stop be approved for the intersection of Moore Street and McIntyre Street, and further that council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend bylaw 45-89. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Councillor Kohler, Councillor Wookey to follow.
Thanks, Your Worship. I won't be supporting the resolution as is, and if defeated, we'll be moving a motion for option 2, but just want to voice my opposition to the current motion.
Councillor Wookey.
Thank you. This is one of those situations again where, in my mind, I'm okay with it being the way it is. I'm okay with it being a one-way. It's one of those things that on a street like this is an easy thing to change if it doesn't work out. Okay. So I'm prepared to accept this and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, then we can pursue one way. I have no problem with that either. My only question for staff is, if this is a one-way versus two-way, is there any impact or improvement on on-street parking if it's one-way? Like, does what we do have an impact on possible on-street parking? Would be my question if I could ask the staff. Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence.
Through the mayor, the on-street parking would stay the same in any of the options. So just the way it's configured, we could leave it basically every single section as it is and on the same side.
Go ahead, Councillor Wookey.
So that so it being one way, so the street's wide enough that we can have traffic going both ways and have parking where it is now, correct? That's what you're saying. So it being one way does not improve those options, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's currently two-way and there is parking. If we made it one way, whether it's one direction or the other, we would keep the parking where it is.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark, followed by Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. I drove by there again the other day, and the problem for me I won't be supporting the motion with two-way is that when you have a parked car, and if you're driving one way beside that, you cannot get a vehicle coming the other way. It's about a half a lane. It's so narrow. So you're trying to dodge, then going in and out, trying to move your vehicle around parked cars. So I will be in favor of supporting Councillor Kohler's motion number 2. Thank you.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I think if we take the time to ask people what they want and they tell us they want a one-way traffic, I think it's something we need to take a look at, or why even ask them. And secondly, I think if we went to one way, I still think at the intersection where it turns left on the McIntyre, there needs to be a stop sign. Because if you let one way go freely right around the corner, there could be somebody playing there and someone comes around and you could easily hit somebody because you didn't slow down. But anyway, those are just my thoughts, but I think if 12 people want it, it's something we need to take a good look at. Thank you.
Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Worship. I too will not support the motion. I'm supportive of the one way, and we'll see what happens following the vote. I'm curious to know, though, I actually had the opportunity last week to visit one of the new apartments, and while I was there, I actually had a chance to tour 3 apartments on the 8th floor. And it struck me, I don't think we need the stop sign that Alderman Councillor Herbert referred to. I think that with the stop sign exiting the property, it's enough to slow the traffic down. But, you know, the neighborhood didn't cause this. The development has caused this. And, you know, I've watched, it's taken over 2.5 years to get from the stage of construction to occupancy. So if that's the same pace for Tower 2, which hasn't even broken ground, we're at least another 2.5 years away from seeing an entrance off of Ross Street, which will ultimately alleviate a lot of these concerns. But I think in the short term, we need to listen to the wishes of the neighbors. I'm curious why staff would recommend something that wasn't in support of the neighbors. Thanks.
Mr. Lawrence, would you want to answer that or? Yep, go ahead then.
Thanks. Through the mayor to the council, there's 2 reasons why we'd support it. One is that the traffic study suggested that's the safest option, the most efficient option. And the second is a tough question for council, and is that, do you consider the votes of all the people that don't live here yet? So if there's 500 people that will live here, and if they vote, if they would in theory vote, we don't know, if they would in theory vote for a stop sign, then it would be 500 to 17. That's the tough question, and it's hard to answer at this point.
I think Councillor Baldwin-Sands, I saw your hand.
Thank you. I too am not going to be supporting this, and we'll wait for option number 2 coming forward in Councillor Kohler's motion when it is on the ability to support that one. Thank you.
Sorry, further question, Mark? Sorry, Councillor Burgess. They're pretty familiar tonight. Yes.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have no problem supporting the motion the way it is. The problem I have with the one-way is I think it does need a stop sign on Moore Street. Part of the, if I'm not mistaken, part of the problem was vehicles coming down Moore and going into that new development. And if it's not regulated, I don't see how that's going to solve anything. So for me, I'm going to stick with supporting this motion. Thanks.
Sorry, further questions or comments? Seeing none, well then calling the vote on this report. All those in favor? All those opposed? It has failed.
Your worship, was there another motion to put forward regarding this matter?
Councillor Kohler?
I'd like to move the motion that option 2 be considered.
I'll second that.
Questions or comments on the motion on the floor?
Could the motion be read?
Your worship, I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark, that scenario number 2, as outlined in report ES 3422, be approved for the intersection of Moore Street and McIntyre Street. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend bylaw 45-89.
Councillor Wookie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I'm okay with this. And I'll say the exact same thing about the previous one. We put it in for a little bit of time. We see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we change it. No offense, like this, we spent a lot of time dealing with a very small street. I understand that it's going to take a lot of traffic over the next 2.5 years, but let's see how it works.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
I think we should consider Councillor Herbert's idea of the stop sign, because it does slow, it acts as a slowing mechanism around that corner. And if people, as the traffic report has indicated, if the worry is that people will try and cut the lights at Wellington and Ross, then having the stopping would be a calming effect. So I'd be okay with adding that.
Am I right under scenario 2? You cannot enter McIntyre Street from Ross. It's exiting onto Ross there.
Well, I meant Right,
I suppose you could come down more and go over to Ross, but
right,
you're not missing the lights on, anyway, you are one way. You're right, Councillor Clark. You are.
right. I just
Councillor
think
Peters?
it would have a calming effect, slow traffic down.
Thanks, Your Worship. My preference would be if that scenario is going to be discussed, that it be done as a separate resolution. Because if that was added as either as an official amendment or a friendly amendment to this, then I would have to vote against this because I don't support that scenario. So I would prefer to see us deal with these in the order. And then if the members want to make another motion to deal with that issue, the stop sign, then that could be dealt with separately, be my desire.
Okay, so we're on scenario number 2, the way it is written. Any further questions or comments? My only comment on that scenario is now leaving the majority of the cars, leaving the apartment building complex, must turn left onto Ross Street. And I recognize Ross Street isn't a overly busy street, but that number of cars would perhaps back it up just a little. So I would almost like number 3, the one way, the other way, but we're on number 2, so we'll start there. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, on scenario number 2. All those in favor? I count 6, that passes.
Your worship, was there a mover for the installation of a stop sign at the intersection of Moore and McIntyre Streets?
My understanding is it would be, if you look at scenario 1, where it's located on Moore, and just sliding it down into scenario 2. Like, so if you're coming south down Moore, you would come to a stop sign before you proceeded straight into that new development.
Further discussion on the stop sign at the corner of Moore and McIntyre? Seeing none, all those in favor? I see 4. Hands up again if you approve of the stop sign. And now I see 3. Want me to call it again? Okay. Approval of the stop sign at the corner of Moore Street and McIntyre, in addition to what we've already voted on. I see 4. So all those opposed? It's got 5 against, so that's defeated.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next, under new business, first item is transit advertising program. I have a motion that report ES 3322 relating to a transit advertising program be received for information, and further that council authorize staff to administratively extend the transit advertising program with Van Pouts. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments on the transit advertising? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Next item relates to the 2022 multi-use trail program, program award. I have a motion that report ES 3522 relating to the tender award be received for information, and further that the tender submitted by Murray Mills Excavating and Trucking, Sarnia Limited, in the amount of $424,726.50 excluding HST be accepted. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Questions or comments on the tender award on trails? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the Kains Street construction from Mondamin to Alma Streets tender award. I have motion that report ES 3622 relating to the tender award be received for information, and further that the tender 2022-011 for Kains Street construction be canceled. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Rymel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Woodkey?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Do we have a conclusion to the piece of public art? Is that going to be done and stored, or is that going to be put on hold? Do we know about that yet? Thank you.
That's a good question. Mr. Lawrence, do we know about the piece of public art? Will we still order it and save it for when we do the project, or? Please go ahead.
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes, we've already purchased it. Essentially, the work's underway. So what we'll do is we'll receive it, we'll put it inside a building somewhere that we have, and then we'll hold it until next year or the year after, and then we'll put it in at that time. The installation was not included in the price so there's no extra costs.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, no further items for this committee unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none?
We'll now move to corporate governance and administration. Having dealt with the Entegrus matter, we'll now move to the 2022 Municipal Election Accessibility Plan. I have a motion that report CC 1022 relating to the 2022 Municipal Election Accessibility Plan be received for information, and further the council adopt the 2022 Municipal Election Accessibility Plan to be followed for the 2022 municipal election. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Woodkey.
Questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you like to add anything to this accessibility plan?
Your worship, just while we're on the topic of the 2022 municipal election, I just wanted to send out a reminder that for anyone who has moved since October of 2018, please have a look at www.voterlookup.ca to ensure that you are on the voters list and that your information is correct. Secondly, nomination period has begun and ends on August the 19th at 2 p.m. Forms and information are available both on the city's website as well as in the city clerk's office. And then just as a reminder that council had adopted the alternative voting method, telephone plus internet, for this election. We strongly encourage you to vote from home. However, any individuals who cannot get access to a telephone or the internet will be able to get assistance at a mobile voter help center for specified dates and times, and those have yet to be determined, but will be available by early fall. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Next item.
Your Worship, we just need the vote on the accessibility.
We'll go ahead and do that then. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
Your Worship, no further items unless there are any items from the members.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. An item under reports pending. I'm going to ask for Mr. Bray to update the members of council and the members of the community at large on the committee, on the work that we are doing on the proposed community aquatic center. I was hoping to hear a few words from Mr. Bray as an update, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bray, good to see you up here tonight. Please go
Hello.
ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Through you to Councillor Baldwin-Sands. A consultant has been retained to do a more accurate estimate of the facility itself. I'm expecting the results of that study towards the end of May. And we will be doing a short survey with the public, letting them know the capital costs associated with the facility. This survey will be structured so that people don't have to be concerned about multiple people participating. This is through SurveyMonkey. You can control the URLs and track them. And I'll be bringing a report mid-June with the results.
Thank you. Questions of Mr. Bray? Seeing none, thank you. Next item.
Your worship, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council in committee of the whole as recorded in the minutes of this date be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
No reports of committees this evening. We'll now move into petitions and communications. The first is an application made to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission by Sunset Grill for a liquor license for its indoor area at 1055 Talbot Street. Council may make representation to the commission regarding the application. And the second is a letter of thanks received regarding the jumbo lighting in recognition of GBS and CIDP Awareness Month. Your worship, unless there are any further items under petitions from the members, we'll move into unfinished business. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members. Seeing none, your worship, we'll move into council new business. Nothing on the agenda at this time, and it doesn't appear as though there are any items from the members. We'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 9th day of May, 2022.
Questions or comments? See none. All in favor? That carries. Next bylaw, please.
Second and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of corporation to a certain agreement between the city, the municipality of Chatham, Kent, Corix Infrastructure, Inc., small typo there, and Entegrus, Inc. This relates to a waiver of shareholder agreement relating to the proposed sale of Fibre business.
Questions or comments? All in favor? That carries. Your worship, I rise and report the successful passing of two bylaws.
Your worship, I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the two bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, no public notice or notices of motion this evening. However, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a personal matter about an identifiable individual, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, and a proposed or pending acquisition and disposition of land. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll let the people know at home that we're about to go into closed session. When we're finished it, we'll rise and then adjourn. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we will vote all in favor of going into closed session. That is carried, and we'll do that. And thank you. We'll see the rest of you next week.